San Jose woman is one of two tourists killed in the crossfire of a suspected drug gang shootout in Mexico.
On March 3rd, 2023, a routine medical trip took a terrible turn for Latvia McGee and her friends. The group got trapped in a brutal attack by a Mexican drug gang. Their tragic story just one example of the dangers facing visitors to parts of Mexico.
Members of a notorious cartel tied up and left in public right at the scene of the kidnapping for all to see.
Once peaceful vacation spots have become war zones, where tourists get caught in the middle of criminal battles. Brutal kills, mass graves, people vanishing. The horrible things happening have destroyed the feeling of safety, exposing a terrifying new reality for travelers. We'll show you the human cost of Mexico's drug gang crisis, from the beaches of Cancun to the historic streets of Oaxaca. These are stories of lives cut short, dreams destroyed, and the ghosts haunting Mexico's tourist spots. Victor Masson. In a shocking turn of events, Victor Masson, a Quebecer with a bright future ahead of him, met a tragic end in Mexico. His untimely death has not only cast a shadow over his hometown, but also brought international attention to the rising violence in the region. On May 15, 2023, 23-year-old Victor Masson went on a vacation in the Mexican beach town of Puerto Escondido with his girlfriend Eva Castillo. On that fateful day, he went to a bar alone for a drink and left his girlfriend at their hotel. While getting blind drunk, some Mexican men came up to him and continuously harassed him. One of them was later identified as a cartel member, Mario Omara Sanin Lopez. You might wonder, what might he have done to anger them? Well, he did nothing. All they wanted was for the good-looking foreigner to pay for all their drinks. Victor Masson wasn't having it at all, so he did what anyone would do. He made a video and sent it to his girlfriend and made a 911 call, which was the trigger Mario Omara needed to shoot him. Victor's Masson fell to the ground with all his dreams of experiencing the world came to a devastating end, most unexpectedly. On that seemingly ordinary evening, Victor Masson was shot dead in a violent incident in Mexico. These details of his shooting are both chilling and perplexing. The sudden and violent nature of Victor's death has left his loved ones and the community in shock. Local authorities quickly launched an investigation, as the motive behind the attack remained unclear. Speculations range from a targeted hit to a random act of violence, but concrete answers are still elusive. The investigation into Victor Masson's death has been complex and challenging. Mexican authorities, aware of the international attention the case has garnered, have been working diligently to uncover the truth. However, the pervasive issues of corruption and violence in the region have posed significant obstacles. Local police have been conducting interviews, gathering forensic evidence, and analyzing surveillance footage in an attempt to piece together the events leading up to the shooting. The Canadian government has also expressed its concern, urging Mexican authorities to ensure a thorough and transparent investigation. Despite these efforts, progress was slow. Witnesses have been reluctant to come forward, likely due to fear of reprisal from the perpetrators. The lack of concrete leads has only deepened the mystery surrounding Victor's death, leaving his family and friends in a state of confusion. But just when no one was expecting, the light at the end of the tunnel showed. Was on that fateful day of the shooting, just across the street stood Sergio Ruiz Lenis, an eyewitness of the shooting. Unlike other eyewitnesses, he was willing to speak up. But why did it take him so long? Well, after the shooting, Mario Omara warned Sergio not to speak of what he saw, or if he did, he'd be dead. And that's exactly what happened to Sergio. After he reported what he witnessed, Mario Omara and his crew were arrested and Sergio paid dearly with his life. For many Canadians, Mexico remains a popular travel destination. However, incidents like the one involving Victor have raised safety concerns. the Canadian government has issued travel advisories, urging its citizens to exercise caution and stay informed about the risks. Beyond the political and social implications, Victor Masson's death is a poignant reminder of the human cost of violence. He was a beloved son, brother, and friend whose life was cut short in a senseless act. His family, now grappling with unimaginable grief, has called for justice and transparency in the situation. As for his girlfriend, Eva Castillo, well, she took the next flight back to Canada. Benjamin Gammon. The world of rugby was rocked by the tragic news of Benjamin Gammon's untimely death while on vacation in Mexico. Benjamin Gammon, hailing from New Zealand, had quickly made a name for himself in the world of rugby. Known for his athleticism, strategic mind, and leadership qualities, Benjamin is originally from Cordoba and is a member of the Tala Rugby Club. His impressive performances on the field earned him respect and admiration from fans, teammates, and coaches alike. Off the field, Benjamin was known for his charitable work and dedication to mentoring young athletes. His future was bright, with many predicting that he would soon become a mainstay in the national team, the All Blacks. His passion for rugby was matched only by his love for adventure, which eventually led him to take a deadly vacation. In May of 2023, Benjamin Gammon embarked on a well-deserved vacation to Mexico, hoping to relax and experience the country's rich culture and scenic beauty. He chose Villa de Tututepec, a renowned tourist hotspot famous for its pristine beaches, vibrant nightlife, and historical sites. For Benjamin, it was the perfect place to unwind after a grueling rugby season. They met a lively and friendly young man named Cruz Irving Marinez Flores. He introduced himself as a surfing instructor and showed them around the beach area. It honestly felt as if they'd met a new friend. The next day, Benjamin and his friends met Cruz Irving, and this time something felt off. They asked him where they could get surfing boards. He acted like he didn't know them and stared at them strangely. Benjamin and his friends were taken aback but didn't think much of the situation. They simply went to a different beach in Laguna de Chacatiwa. But Cruz Irving had something up his sleeves. With a few gang members, he came to the beach where Benjamin and his friends went and hit Benjamin hard on his head with a machete, causing him to have a hypovolemic shock which is caused by heavy blood loss. While the two others tried to fend off the aggressor, sustained non-fatal wounds. The perpetrator, 21-year-old Cruz Irving, was arrested and placed in preventive detention on charges of attempted murder. Given that Benjamin passed away, the suspect was tried for murder. Benjamin's family has been vocal about the need for justice and reforms. His mother, Lisa Gaiman, stated, "We want justice for Benjamin, but we also want to ensure that no other family has to go through this pain. We need to work together to make our world safer." The remains being repatriated to Argentina, his family reportedly donated 7 of his organs, honoring what they said was his wish to do so. For the rugby community, honoring Benjamin's memory means carrying forward his passion for the sport and his commitment to making a positive impact. As his former coach, Steve Hansen, aptly put it, "Benjamin's spirit will always be with us on the field. We owe it to him to play with the same heart and dedication he did." The tragic death of Benjamin Gammon highlights the ongoing issue of violence in tourist destinations like Laguna de Chacatiwa. While Mexico remains a popular vacation spot, incidents like these raise concerns about safety and security for visitors. The Mexican government has been working to address these issues. Angeli Riot and Jennifer Henzold. Angeli Riot's tragic death on October 20, 2021 in Tulum, Mexico, has brought to light the growing concerns about safety in tourist destinations. Angeli, a 25-year-old travel blogger, was visiting Tulum to celebrate her birthday when she became a victim of a violent incident. Who was Angeli Riot? She was a software engineer and a travel enthusiast. Born and raised in India, she moved to the United States for better opportunities and eventually settled in California, where she worked for a major tech company. Outside of her professional life, Angeli was a passionate traveler and a popular travel blogger. She often shared her travel experiences and adventures on her social media platforms, inspiring many with her vibrant personality and love for exploring new places. On the evening of October 20, 2021, Angeli Riot was at a popular bar in Tulum La Malcarita restaurant, a tourist hotspot known for its beautiful beaches and vibrant nightlife. The bar, frequented by both tourists and locals, was a place where visitors came to enjoy the lively atmosphere of the town. Just like a flash, the evening took a tragic turn when a gunfight broke out between two rival drug gangs near the bar. The gunfire resulted in several people being injured and claimed the lives of Angeli Riot and another tourist, Jennifer Hensoldt from Germany. Angeli was caught in the crossfire, an innocent victim of the violence that erupted unexpectedly. The incident shocked the local community and international tourists alike, highlighting the increasing concerns over safety in popular tourist destinations in Mexico. Local authorities quickly responded to the incident, launching an investigation to apprehend those responsible for the violence. It turned out that a group known as Los Pelones was responsible for the shooting. They have been known to be a great disturbance in the area since 2017, and allegedly, they have been linked to the Gulf Cartel. But why the shooting? Well, not everyone who visits Mexico came for a clear motive. Some came for drugs and other illegal substances. So yeah, it was a territorial fight of domination scale between the Los Pelones and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The Mexican government wasn't having it. They sent about 300 troops to fish out those involved, and yes, they were all arrested and sentenced for their crimes. Angeli's death was widely mourned, and her family, friends, and followers expressed their grief and outrage over the senseless violence. Her brother, Ashish Riot, described her as a kind-hearted and lively person who had a zest for life and travel. He and other family members traveled to Mexico to bring her body back home, dealing with the painful and complex process of repatriation. The incident also sparked a broader conversation about the safety of tourists in Mexico. Many travelers reconsidered their plans, and travel advisories were updated to reflect the heightened risks in certain areas. The Mexican government faced increased pressure to address the violence and implement stronger security measures to protect both residents and visitors. David Hartley. For more than 3 years, details about the investigation into who killed David Hartley have been as murky as the waters where his body disappeared. This case gained significant media attention and sparked international concern due to its tragic nature and the implications for cross-border security between the United States and Mexico. David Hartley, a 30-year-old American citizen from Colorado, was killed on September 30th, 2010, while jet skiing on Falcon Lake, a reservoir on the Rio Grande that spans the border between Texas, USA, and Tamaulipas, Mexico. He and his wife, Tiffany Hartley, were enjoying a recreational outing when they were suddenly ambushed by Mexican cartel members. They encountered a group of armed men on boats who reportedly identified themselves as members of the Zetas cartel. The gunmen opened fire on the couple, aiming to rob them of their jet skis. Tiffany Hartley later recounted that the assailants fired at them from the Mexican side of the lake, which placed them under Mexican jurisdiction. She managed to escape and fled back to the U.S. side of the lake, but David was shot in the head and killed. His body was never recovered. Tiffany Hartley's harrowing account of the attack and her efforts to seek help drew widespread sympathy and intensified scrutiny of the safety of Americans traveling in Mexico. Search efforts by both Mexican and U.S. authorities to locate David's body faced significant challenges due to the remote and rugged terrains of Falcon Lake. Despite extensive search operations, including the use of divers and sonar equipment, David's remains were never found, leaving his family and the public without closure. Mexican authorities said they had arrested a leader of the ruthless Zetas drug cartel and linked him to the Falcon Lake killing. This incident raised questions about the Mexican government's ability to control criminal activities in border regions plagued by drug cartel violence. It also prompted warnings from U.S. authorities about the risks of traveling to certain parts of Mexico known for cartel activity. Latavia McGee. On March 3, 2023, 4 Americans, Shaeed Woodard, Zindell Brown, Eric Williams, and Latavia McGee, traveled to Matamoros for medical tourism, a practice where people seek medical treatment in another country, often due to lower costs. And in her case, she wanted to undergo a tummy tuck procedure, which is way cheaper in Mexico than in the U.S. The 3 friends simply followed her for companionship during and after her procedure. The group crossed the border from Brownsville, Texas, into Mexico. But shortly after entering Matamoros, their vehicle was intercepted by armed men. The attackers opened fire, killing a Mexican bystander, Areli Pablo Servando, who was struck by a stray bullet while they abducted the Americans. The brazen nature of the attack, which took place in broad daylight, shocked both local and international communities. Matamoros, like many border cities, has experienced significant cartel-related violence, but this incident involving foreign nationals brought a new level of scrutiny. The incident prompted swift action from both Mexican and U.S. authorities. The FBI offered a reward for information leading to the safe return of the kidnapped individuals and the arrest of those responsible, and Mexican security forces launched a large-scale search operation in Matamoros and the surrounding areas. 2 surviving Americans were found several days later in a house outside Matamoros, along with the bodies of the 2 deceased victims, Woodard and Brown. As soon as they were located, the survivors were immediately transported back to the United States. But even though they weren't dead, the 2 men didn't come out unscathed either. Williams had 3 gunshot wounds to his leg, while McGee surprisingly had no physical injuries, but suffered serious mental trauma. The 2 were taken to the border shortly after their discovery and hospitalized in Texas. A 24-year-old male from Valle Hermoso, Tamaulipas, allegedly found guarding them, was taken into custody and charged with aggravated kidnapping. But then, the story took a very dramatic turn. In the early morning of March 9, 5 men with their hands tied were found abandoned at the site of the original abduction in downtown Matamoros. An accompanying message from the Grupo Escorpion faction of the Gulf Cartel identified them as the perpetrators and extended an apology to the families of the victims on both sides of the border and to the people of Matamoros in general. The 5 were charged by the State Prosecution Service with aggravated kidnapping and homicide. Officials said they were likely mistaken for Haitian drug smugglers. The Gulf Cartel also issued an apology for the incident in a letter that was circulated by Mexican media, in which the cartel expressed regret over the kidnapping and murders. The letter stated that the actions of the individuals involved were against the cartel's principles and rules. It went on to explain that those responsible had acted on their own and without the authorization of the cartel leadership. The letter also mentioned that the cartel had handed over the 5 men responsible for the attack to local authorities. Photos circulated showing the 5 men bound and left on the street, accompanied by the letter of apology. For the families of the victims, the apology offered little solace. The incident left a lasting impact on their lives, and they continue to seek justice and answers. And also, it posed the extent women would go to look good, especially at a cheaper rate. Latavia McGee expressed her hurt and regret on national TV. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. This image describes how tourists are brutally tortured and killed by Mexican cartels. On the left, there is a photo of a young woman with striking makeup and long hair, one of the victims of tourists brutally tortured and killed by Mexican cartels. Her name was Elizabeth Flores, a mother of 2 who was killed in the most gruesome way ever. On the right, there is a blurred, distressing image showing another woman being violently assaulted with someone pulling her hair. The text "Deadly Trip" is prominently displayed between the images. This image simply conveys a grim narrative, emphasizing the horrific violence inflicted on the tourists by the cartels. Next, let's look into the story of Elizabeth Flores. Before then, tell us, what do you think about this image? Let us know in the comments section. Elizabeth Flores. The tragic case of Elizabeth Flores, a 23-year-old mother from Texas, has drawn significant attention due to the brutal nature of her death and the disturbing circumstances surrounding it, as she was brutally tortured and killed by the Mexican cartel. Flores was found murdered in Matamoros, Mexico, just across the border from her hometown of Brownsville, Texas. Her body was discovered on August 9, 2020, showing signs of severe torture, including the removal of her teeth and part of her scalp. Flores had been lured to Mexico by Braulio Trevino Martinez, a 39-year-old convicted sex offender who knew her family. Trevino Martinez told Flores that her boyfriend, who is also the father of her 2 children, had been kidnapped and that she needed to bring ransom money to secure his release. She told her mother about the incident, but her mother's instinct felt something was off and told Flores not to go. But she didn't listen. Objecting to her mother, Flores crossed the border, but she never returned. Her mother reported her missing the next day when she failed to come home, leading to the gruesome discovery of her body. Authorities arrested Trevino Martinez at his home in Molinos del Rey, Mexico, shortly after the murder. The investigation revealed that the motive behind the crime was robbery, and the brutality of the attack highlighted the dangerous circumstances that some areas of Mexico face regarding violent crimes. Trevino Martinez had a history of violent offenses, having served time in Texas for offenses involving minors. Flores's death has had a profound impact on her family, especially her mother, Maria Rubio, who described the loss as having her heart ripped out. Rubio expressed deep sorrow over the pain her daughter endured and called for justice for those responsible. As for the killer, he kept mute and hasn't said anything regarding his true intentions for such a gruesome murder. Tatiana Mirutenko. One of her very best places to visit became where she met her death. This was the statement made by Wasil Mirutenko, the father of Tatiana Mirutenko. Tatiana was a 27-year-old American tourist who was tragically killed in Mexico City on July 7, 2018. Mirutenko, from San Francisco, was celebrating her first wedding anniversary with her husband and friends in the upscale Lomas de Chapultepec neighborhood, known for its high-end restaurants and vibrant nightlife. The incident occurred as Mirutenko and her group were leaving a popular restaurant. She was struck by a stray bullet when gunmen on a motorcycle opened fire on a bar security guard who was their intended target. The gunmen, affiliated with a local drug cartel, were reportedly targeting the guard over a previous altercation. According to her family, Mirutenko was a bright and accomplished young woman who had a promising career in the biotech industry. Her death shocked and saddened many, both in her hometown and in Mexico. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico City issued a statement expressing condolences and offering support to her family during this difficult time. The tragic event brought attention to the broader issue of violence in Mexico, even in areas that are generally considered safe for tourists. Despite significant efforts by Mexican authorities to curb such violence, the pervasive influence of drug cartels continues to pose a significant threat to public safety. Dean Lucas and Adam Coleman. These 2 Australian surfers tragically met their deaths in Mexico at the hands of drug cartels in November 2015. The 2 friends were on a road trip from Edmonton, Canada to Guadalajara, Mexico, where they planned to reunite with Coleman's girlfriend. Their journey took a deadly turn when they went missing in the state of Sinaloa, an area notorious for cartel violence. The alarm was raised when they failed to arrive in Guadalajara on their expected date. After an intense search, their burned-out van was found with 2 charred bodies inside. It was later confirmed through dental records that the remains were indeed those of Lucas and Coleman. The investigation revealed that the 2 surfers were likely targeted by members of a local cartel who mistook them for rival gang members. They were ambushed and murdered, and their van was set on fire in an attempt to cover up the crime. This tragic case drew significant media attention and highlighted the extreme dangers in regions of Mexico controlled by drug cartels. Dean Lucas, who was 33, and Adam Coleman, who was 32, were described by friends and family as adventurous, kind-hearted individuals with a deep love for surfing and travel. Their deaths prompted the Australian government to issue travel warnings about the risks of traveling in certain areas of Mexico, urging travelers to exercise heightened caution. Benjamin Yeshurun Suchi. On March 2021, Mexican authorities made a significant breakthrough in a long-standing case involving the deaths of 2 Israeli tourists in Mexico. The incident, which occurred in 2019, involved the brutal killings of Amir Ohana and Mayor Pavlovsky, both Israeli nationals who were visiting Mexico at the time. Amir Ohana, who was aged 41, and Mayor Pavlovsky, who was 30, were found murdered in a rented apartment in the upscale resort city of Playa del Carmen on the Caribbean coast of Mexico. The discovery of their bodies shocked the local community and sparked an intensive investigation into the circumstances surrounding their deaths. According to reports, the victims had been brutally stabbed multiple times, suggesting a targeted and violent attack. Mexican authorities initially struggled to make progress in the case, which had profound implications for both local security and international relations with Israel. After 2 years of investigation, Mexican law enforcement finally made a breakthrough when they arrested a suspect believed to be involved in the killings. The arrested individual was identified as a woman whose name and background were not immediately disclosed by authorities. The arrest marked a crucial development in the case, providing hope for justice for the families of Ohana and Pavlovsky. The motive behind the murders was not immediately clear. Some tagged it as a murder for passion, and investigators continued to piece together the events leading up to the tragic incident. The deaths of Amir Ohana and Mayor Pavlovsky had prompted concerns about safety and security for tourists visiting Mexico, particularly in popular resort areas like Playa del Carmen. In response to the arrest, Israeli officials expressed gratitude to Mexican authorities for their efforts in apprehending the suspect. The development signaled a step forward in addressing the unresolved killings and providing closure for the victims' families. The case of Ohana and Pavlovsky tragic deaths serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of effective law enforcement and international cooperation in addressing violent crime and ensuring justice for victims and their families. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.